Strength of character lives within the spirit of East Tennesseans. It's a spirit that embraces the culture of the past while welcoming the challenges of the future. And that spirit inhabits the drive of 2022's East Tennessean of the Year, the husband and wife team of Randy and Jenny Boyd.
I think Randy and Jenny, they're who we want to be. They're people who are relentlessly optimistic and relentlessly committed to making the place that they call home an even better place.
They're just a great couple. They really complement one another.
Anybody that knows Randy knows he has this sense of optimism of we can make this work, and that's kind of contagious, and you want to be around it. I'd way rather be around somebody who says we can make this work than somebody who says this is never ever going to work.
She goes back to the traditions, the family traditions and the traditions of the people here in the mountains.
And I think what her interest and the museum's interest had a connection instantly. She loves music and old-time music, and of course that's a lot of what we do here, and that was an instant connection.
Randy and Jenny became a couple in a serendipitous moment.
We used to not tell people this story, but as we've gotten older, we've decided we could talk about it.
We both met at a disco. We don't mind saying so.
It was on Truckers Lane, the road that leads over to Turkey Creek.
Neither of us actually wanted to be there, but we came with friends and ended up connecting there.
He came up and introduced himself, and we danced, and he offered me a beer. Well, I didn't drink anything, so I nursed this beer, the whole time I sat there with him.
She was a little suspicious.
I was very cautious with him because you don't meet guys in bars and ever go see them.
Finally, after a couple of weeks, I managed to get her out to go out on our first date.
And then we went to the Copper Cellar maybe for dinner, and while he watched me eat, and then we drove home in our own vehicles.
It obviously worked out for the two of them and for East Tennessee.
For me, I knew she was special the day I first met her, and she became more and more special every single day and does even to this day.
Randy's very public hats began as the businessman, building a successful national company.
He knew the only way to succeed was keep at it, and that's exactly what he did. Now, he was always a brilliant salesman. And when he was calling on feed and seed dealers across the South, the last thing he wanted to do is go into a store where it was 100 degrees and just get out of an air-conditioned vehicle. So he broke all the rules of sales. He wore shorts and a t-shirt, took the air conditioner out of his van so he'd be just as hot as they were, and undoubtedly his customers loved him.
An interest in education spurred development of Knox Achieves to help further opportunities for Knox County students.
In typical Randy Boyd fashion, before we had finished our first class, Randy had gone to Sevier County and Haslam County and Loudoun County and Blount County and Anderson County. So Randy brought in all these other counties. By the time we had the first class of all those other counties in there, he had taken it statewide. But it kept paying off.
The success of the idea led Randy to expanding the role as part of Governor Bill Haslam's administration, first as special advisor on higher education, and then as commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development.
Tennessee Promise is a great example. He kind of comes up with the concept, he does all the work to make it happen, and I got all the credit. Randy didn't come up with that so that people would say, oh, wow, look what Randy did. He just really wants to do the right thing. And I can't tell you how, unfortunately, how rare that is, but also how refreshing it is.
Haslam was impressed, I think, with Randy's energy level and interest in, first of all, in education, but also just doing things to improve the economic condition of our state. I think that's part of what's in their basic DNA is to give back to the community or support the community.
Randy has that sense of vision, that sense of optimism that have enabled him to have great success in business and now in a public role.
Running has been a principle in his business and an action in his life.
I feel like it's the only place that he can be with himself no interruptions, and that's where he is with his thoughts and with his ideas. It's and a place to relax. He gets into his rhythm and he's relaxed at that moment.
I guess he does all of his thinking while he runs, and but I don't know of no one that has more energy than Randy Boyd.
A dedicated runner of numerous marathons, one Boston Marathon remains particularly memorable and frightful.
I went to see Randy run a little bit late that day because I don't always watch him finish out races, but I thought I could see him at the end once he passed the finish line. And I was supposed to be in the stands, and I get a block away, and I'm on a corner, and the sun was just shining on that spot. It was meant for me to be there. I heard something that sounded like fireworks, and then I heard it again.
In the confusion, Randy and Jenny couldn't find each other.
I decided to go back to the hotel, and I go to the room and open the door, and there he is, which was miraculous. I was like, where were you? How did you get back here before me?
For those of you who know Randy and want to know how to keep up with him, I figured it out. Go for a bicycle ride. I sprung the bicycle ride up Cadillac Mountain after he ran 15 miles. So always catch Randy after he's run 15 miles and you can keep up with him.
If her face is not as publicly known, Jenny is certainly recognized for her behind-the-scenes work with numerous nonprofits and her old city business, Boyd's Jig and Reel. Here, she regularly plays fiddle with a group of musicians. Learning to play the fiddle came to her later in life.
I was too old to dance anymore, and I thought it kind of helped my creative side that I wanted to fulfill.
Perhaps learning to play was an inexplicable tug of East Tennessee.
For me, it's the music and the culture.
For Jenny, the journey to becoming an East Tennessean began with her adoption in Germany.
Her parents said that she was special, she was picked, and so she's always been proud of being adopted, of being picked. But at the same time, there was always something that she missed. She would always say a little reticently, I wish that I could be with people that looked like me, that I had something in common with.
I was raised by two perfect parents that did everything for me, and then I was lucky enough to find out where I came from.
Dr. George Schweitzer at the East Tennessee Historical Society helped Jenny discover her family roots.
The discovery of her own personal heritage has changed her life for a greater understanding of who she is and who her ancestors were.
Just the joy she exudes at finding her family and talking about them and all the connections and all the little idiosyncrasies that she's found throughout the journey is wonderful.
I was born in Munich, and I, 25 years ago, had found my mother and my three half-brothers. So I go every year, once or twice a year, to see all of them, or they come and visit us. And since then, my mother's passed away and one of my brothers.
The mystery of why she plays the fiddle emerged when she found her birth father's grave in Bee Springs, Kentucky.
When I zoomed in on that picture, I could see a violin bow sticking out from under those flowers. So he was a fiddler. He played country music, and my Aunt Rita, who's the only sibling left, she said he was a really good fiddler. It was very special to me because I always wondered why I was playing it. Why am I doing this so late? It comes from that family. Everyone in that family is musical. You have to feel like you belong somewhere. You know, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Randy's pull toward public service included a run for the office of governor.
When he ran for governor, I think that was a soul-searching event for Jenny because she wasn't necessarily looking for that much attention, but she did everything she could to support his campaign.
Fortune smiled on Tennessee when that failed governor's race led Randy to becoming the 26th president of the University of Tennessee.
Tennessee didn't lose when Randy lost because Randy became president of the University of Tennessee, and that leadership has been tremendous for the University of Tennessee and for East Tennessee, Knoxville in particular.
Part of me thought that'd be wonderful, and the other thought, this is going to be really interesting because Randy's used to going 800 miles per hour, looking around three corners and taking off. Not necessarily the way that, like I said, higher education works, but Randy has figured out a way to do that, to make it work, to encourage fast change and adaptation at the university, but also realizing the context in which that has to happen.
I don't move as fast as he does, but for typical administrators in higher ed, I have a pretty good clip. And so I really appreciate that about him.
Randy's energy level is legendary. It sustains him and has propelled him on his passage through life.
I always thought I had pretty decent energy level till I worked with Randy, and then I found out who knew I was such a slacker.
Actually, Randy looks like he's busy. He doesn't think he is. He's a very organized kid.
He has more energy than anyone I've ever known. I call him the Energizer Bunny. He never stops. If he stops, he goes to sleep.
I'm glad to know he sleeps sometimes. Randy moves fast, but that's one of the things that attracted me to him and to this job.
As for the future,
If you look at what they're doing today in the Old City, that's going to be a legacy that serves Knoxville for the next 50, maybe 100 years.
This isn't just about baseball. It's about the entire community, particularly East Knoxville, benefiting from this new stadium. In particular, the Beck Cultural Exchange Center and the Knoxville Area Urban League. It will be a game changer for Knoxville.
Is it an ego thing? It may be, but in Randy's case, it's a positive motivator. Some people are doing things for the wrong reason. That's not him. He's doing it for the right reasons, and he feels good for doing it.
I will say this, however. He is moving the Tennessee Smokies from Sevier County into Knox County. And some of my friends and some of my relatives are not too happy about that in Sevier County, but I think they've forgotten that some 23 years ago, we had a hand in relocating the team from Bill Meyer Stadium over into Sevier County. So we stole them fair and square, and now Randy, as the owner, has every right to move them back into their rightful place.
Almost everything you think about, Randy and Jenny's fingerprints are there. And we're really, really fortunate as a community to have them as leaders and philanthropists and people who love this area.
My son has always proven to be an extraordinary person, somebody that for once a father looks up to his son rather than reverse.
Those folks who are living around here in the 2100s will be living in a lot better place because of Randy and Jenny.